Hey guys, this is a video I've been wanting to make for a while. I've been kind of absent in this project, just I guess life gets in the way sometimes, but I'm going to be going back on this full time. And I've been honestly, really amazed at the response that I got on YouTube and on the website, which, by the way, is down right now, but I'm switching hosting provider, so it will be up. Check it in the next couple of weeks. Probably the next couple of days it'll be back up. I have to migrate all the content over, so that will take a little bit. But it will definitely be back up. So for those of you wondering where it's gone, it's not gone. It's just kind of in limbo right now. But yeah, definitely the response I've gotten has been pretty crazy. I thought that I might get a few people that were kind of interested in this or that had this problem, but it's actually quite a bit. I knew it was a big problem, but it's different when you kind of have a lot of people reaching out to you, explaining their personal situations and things. It makes it a lot more real, and I really, really appreciate that, and I thank you guys for that. All the emails that I've gotten and everything, and especially the comments on the YouTube channel. So I just wanted to discuss a couple of things with you, and the biggest thing is, what is emetophobia and why do you have it? Why is it that you have this fear of something that at the surface is totally irrational, while other people seem to not have this fear? Like for me, the big thing was, well, if we're going to go out to a party or something and there's going to be alcohol involved, why was I always kind of in my head worried about the consequences of overconsumption, whereas other people were just able to drink all they wanted until they got sick and it wasn't even a big deal for them. Now, I'm not advocating that you should do that, but what I'm saying is, why is it that some people have this and some people don't? Like, I lived a pretty normal life growing up. Like, there's really nothing that stands out that would have caused this to happen for me. And you know what? I think it's the same with a lot of you out there. It's that you're kind of confused because you're like, there's not one specific incident that I can attribute to having caused this. I mean, sometimes you're looking for an incident, so you'll pick something that didn't actually cause it, that might have been sickness related, that you kind of put two and two together and you go, well, that must be what caused it, even though you're not 100% sure, because that it's just, I can't, like, for me, there was one episode that I had when I was a kid that I got really sick when I had a friend over for a night, for a sleepover, whatever, and I was like 9 or something like that. And so I kind of, for the past few years, like, attributed that to being the cause of it. But when I look back, I knew intuitively that it really wasn't, because for a few years after that, I was fine. I didn't think about this. This didn't become an issue for me until I was like in my early mid-teens. So it's strange that something could trigger it and then not have an effect for like 4 or 5 years. That didn't make much sense to me. So what I've realized, so I've done a lot of research on that, and what I've realized is that it's not one specific thing that can set this off. Like, most people that have emetophobia are high achieving people. They're responsible people. They have seemingly normal lives. A lot of them have kids and wives and husbands and a family, and they hold down a job, and they're responsible. They're not emotional wrecks most of the time in other areas of their life. You know what I mean? So what I realized is that it's a very complicated issue, in that it's not just about emetophobia. Emetophobia is like the side effect of other things that maybe you have going on, like unresolved anxieties and stuff like that. A lot of it is control issues. A lot of it is there's a lot of subconscious things going on as far as like desire for control, and how you see yourself in your life and where you're going, your future and your past, and the habits that you've developed and the relationships that you have and things that you worry about in general. You could even get into saying it's a bit of an existential thing, where you usually people with emetophobia are quite intelligent, and they spend a lot of time pondering, thinking about like the nature of their life and their place in the world and existence and things like that. And so I think if you have a lot of unresolved issues like that, a lot of unresolved maybe anxiety issues, or confidence issues or self-esteem issues, that those can manifest into emetophobia. It's like, it's strange. It's because it's almost like the other issues that you have in your life, like they pick something to like manifest into. As strange as that sounds, that's what I've realized with a lot of the people that I've talked to, is like there's not like a single defining moment that creates this phobia that they can identify as being the thing that it stems from. It's in my experience anyways, there was a lot of things in my life that I had to realize that I was causing, okay, thought patterns that I had that manifested themselves in emetophobia for me. So things like desire for control, like that's something that I've always had since I was a kid, and I have a real problem taking direction from people. This is another reason why I think that emetophobia and successful, intelligent people kind of goes hand in hand. They tend to be those types of people. It's because the people that end up successful and the people that are intelligent, they have this strong desire to control what happens in their life and to control their destiny and where they're going. And these are, by the way, also the type of people that end up having a fear of death. They have definitely a fear of death, but they also have a fear of not so much uncertainty, but of not being able to control what happens when the uncertainty arises, because they have this idea of their life, and it's very concrete of where they want to go, and they don't like the idea of outside influences dictating what they do in their life. So how you can look at this from a metaphobic perspective is you don't really have a choice too much when your body decides that that's what it's going to do. You don't really have a choice. So people with that sort of temperament, like I did, you push back against that, and you're like, no, I'm not. That's not something it's not an idea that I had. I don't want to do that, and so therefore, that creates a tremendous amount of anxiety. And then over time, your thinking patterns about it. I mean, you sort of start to justify, like, if you have emetophobia, one of the reasons why it continues is because you go, well, if it wasn't so bad, why would I be afraid of it? Right? Like, you rationalize the fact that you don't want to feel like you were being irrationally afraid of something for 20 years. So you kind of say, well, it is pretty bad. That's why I'm afraid of it. It's not that I'm afraid of it for no reason. It actually is pretty bad, which is not true at all. It's really not. It's not bad, honestly. Think back to the last time you were sick. Your memory of it is way worse than the actual experience of it. Like, for me, my memory of the last time that I was sick, not now, but before, would have been like a 9 out of 10, a 10 out of 10. Like, just even the thought of it was horrible. But when it actually did happen, it was like a 3. It was like a 2. It wasn't even that bad. And I remember the last time I got sick was like 2 or 3 years ago or whatever. And I remember after I was like, that's it. Like, that's what I've been so afraid of this whole time. It's like a sneeze. Like, it's it's kind of gross, but it's not like, like, that's why I understand why people can go to the bar and like drink their face off and then get sick and be like, oh, well, we're going to go drink more. It's because it's really not that big of a deal. The only reason it's a big deal for you, and it was for me, is because we have other things going on in our life, control issues and, unresolved anxieties that we kind of bundle together, and then they manifest. They take the form of an irrational fear. It's the same thing with agoraphobia. Like, from the research I've done, emetophobia is, like, if you're looking at the scale of, like, 1 being you're kind of afraid of something, but it doesn't really affect your life that much. You can just kind of avoid it. Maybe like a fear of flying, but it's mild. Like, you can still fly, but you'd prefer to take the train or drive. To 10 being like agoraphobic, where it's like you can't leave your house ever, basically, for any. Like, there's people that get homebound because of these fears of, like, they're not even sure what they're afraid of anymore. It's like they've manifested so much fear from the other issues in their life and their control issues and their other anxiety issues that they can't specifically tell you what they're afraid of. Like, if they leave their house, they're not like, if I leave my house, I'm going to get robbed at gunpoint, and that's what I'm afraid of specifically. Or I'm going to run into somebody and they're going to judge me specifically. It's just a feeling. It's just an overwhelming anxiety about leaving the house, and that's because of control, to the point where you feel like you're so out of control in your life, but you're out of control on one hand, but your desire for control is so strong on the other hand. Because if you have no desire to be in control and you're totally out of control, it won't bother you. You know what I mean? And we all know people like that. But if you have a really intense desire for control, right? Like a lot of emetophobes do, which is something we got to work on. And you have no control, it makes you neurotic because you need something, but you don't have it. You need something, but you don't have it. So what's the solution for agoraphobics is they have their one place, which is their house, that they feel safe in the beginning. They feel safe so they don't leave. Now, some agoraphobics actually get to the point where even being in their house, they don't feel safe anymore. They can't, like, even in their bed. Like, their existence in and of itself, being within their body, and at that point, a lot of them start to become suicidal, because if you can't escape yourself, like, they can escape everything else in the world. They escape going to work, they escape leaving the house, they escape doing the gardening, they escape going for groceries, they escape leaving their bedroom eventually, and then they escape leaving their bed. But you can't escape leaving your body. There's only one way to do that. And so that's a serious issue. And that's basically what happens on the scale of neuroticism and neurotic thoughts, going from like a slight fear of something to a crazy, overwhelming fear of nothing in particular. So now, coming back to the desire for control thing, the solution is not to have no desire for control. Because if you have no desire for control, you could be a bum on the street. And you would be fine with that because you have no desire to control the outcome of your life at all. So you would just say, forget it, I'm going to do whatever, doesn't matter, whatever happens, happens. That's not a good way to live. So what you want is somewhere, if the scale's like here, no desire for control and crazy desire for control, you want to be like here. There's like a red, then yellow, then there's like a green, like a sweet spot. And then it gets yellow again, like maybe you got a little too much, and then red where you're neurotic. If you're in that green sweet spot, it's like you have enough desire for control that you're going to go out and do the things that you know you need to do in order to attain things that are within reason, that are achievable, but you're not, like, you don't have this desire for control that's too extreme that you're paralyzed and you don't do anything, right? So that's kind of where you need to be. So your desire for control needs to be in that sweet spot. And at the same time, you also need to realize that if things don't go your way, you still are not completely out of control. Like, if you have a desire to control the outcome, like let's say you're applying for a job and you have a desire, your desire for control dictates that the outcome you want is to get the job. You're trying to control whether or not you get the job. So you have a desire to control that outcome. So you do everything you can preparing for the interview. You get your resume on point, you talk to the gatekeepers and the people at the company that you need to rub shoulders with, you work on your social skills, that's very important, and you attend the interview, everything goes well, but for some reason they don't give you the job, they give it to someone else. Now, that can either destroy a person or it can just be a learning experience. Now, here's the key. You have to also be able to control your reaction to when things don't go your way based on the scale of your desire for control. Does that make sense? So if you don't get the job, then what? Right? So you have to understand that even if things don't go the way that you want them to, you are not completely out of control. It's not like, oh, it didn't happen, everything's in the wind, my life's messed up forever. You can take the result and then you just start the whole process over again. It's like, okay, I didn't get the job. What can I control about that? Well, some things you control are, you can analyze what you did wrong, and you know what? You probably didn't even do anything wrong. Sometimes things just happen. Sometimes they just, somebody else had more connections with the company, or they flipped a coin even. Sometimes it's just totally random, and they went with someone else, and that shouldn't be the end of your world, and you can take that experience and do with it what you will, but you're still in control with how you react to things. So anyway, that's my little video for today. There's going to be a lot more content moving forward, so keep in touch over email, comments on the YouTube videos, And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will talk to you next time.